for 5.5 years, I worked as an assistant director of admissions at Penn State. And the last year and a half of that time was spent at Penn State Harrisburg. I moved to the area in February of 2020. So I was here for about 5 weeks and then the world shut down. For those 5 weeks, though, I spent little time on campus, but for the campus that I worked for before and also Penn State Harrisburg, I was an out-of-state recruiter. So I often went to many cities, many states recruiting for Penn State. And as a recruiter at Penn State, although there's 20 different locations across the state, you don't really just recruit for your location, you recruit for all of them. So I was all over recruiting for Penn State, and then the world shuts down. And I remember at one point, it was right after Thanksgiving break. I was on Zoom because we had to switch to recruiting on Zoom. And a student had signed up for my appointment time slot, and this was right after Thanksgiving. And I just remember that week, I was like, you know what? Half the time people don't show up for these anyway. Maybe today, they will. So I remember I used to have my Penn State polo shirts on like a chair, and someone actually joined. I was like, all right, let me put this on. So I put that on, and I was talking with this lady who was there with her brother. She signed up her brother for this session because she's like, you know what? I just graduated recently from college, and I still can't help my brother because I don't know how I got through the process. So they were first generation college students, so their parents hadn't gone to college. Her brother had just applied to Penn State. He was a high school senior. And she's like, can you just talk to him about what he needs to do? So we were on Zoom for about, I'd say, an hour and a half to 2 hours. And the entire time they're about frantically writing everything down because everything I was saying to them was so new. 90% of what I talked about wasn't even Penn State related. It was just general college information that they were just, luckily they got me so I could just explain generally what they needed to know. After that, I was like, wow, I think that heightened my senses to the interactions that was to come. Because over the next couple of weeks, up until about Christmas break, so you're talking 2 or 3 weeks, the students have finals, we're back on break again for another couple of weeks. Within those couple of weeks, I talked to about 5 or 6 other families in the exact same boat. They had absolutely no idea what to do. They had the idea they wanted to go to college, but they didn't know what that next step was. So I sent a text to one of my sisters who was a high school junior at the time. And I'm like, what are your friends doing? Because of course she's utilizing me, her free resource, her big brother. And she's like, they're just going to Google. So just like I was someone for the first time ever searching, I went to Google, I cleared my browsing history, my cache, all that. And I was, searching for just college information. Found some really good websites. I found some really bad websites. But even with the really good websites, there's lots of information at your fingertips. But there's nothing really guiding you when you need it. So even though you're finding the information, that process then is still very overwhelming because you don't know, again, what you need when you need it. So you can contact someone in college admissions and they can talk to you. And there's even, like what I would do, I would go out to high schools. But when you're working for a specific institution, there's always a little bit of a tint to it because you're working for that place and you're always going to be selling that place. So there was nothing that was really coming from like an unbiased perspective. So I contacted one of my former colleagues that I worked with and I was like, here's my idea. I want to start a business. And she was like, I love it. Let's do it. So primarily the students that we would see that would struggle the most when it comes to the admissions process, but also entering college, first generation, low income and minority students. So that was what I started College Knowledge on as a kind of like the foundation of it all. Started off doing one session, beginning your college search, just letting students know, here's what you need to know to even at least get yourself started. So are you interested in going to a college, a university, community college, vocational school, like all these different options, because they just think a lot of the times they just have one direction to go in. But when it comes to higher education, there's so many different options. So over a few, I'd say months or so, I just thought to myself, I really want to get this started. So I started College Knowledge, and then that was back in September of 2021. And then December of 2023, we actually switched and became a nonprofit organization, College Knowledge Foundation. So since that, becoming a nonprofit organization now, that opens up a lot of doors to different grants and sponsorships and those types of things, which is why we wanted to do that long term. Over the last couple of months, I've talked with other people who often also struggle with the college admissions process. So we've expanded our mission to also include veterans, foster youth, and veterans, foster youth, and also adult learners. And adult learners, usually that's like pretty much most universities will consider that mid-20s going back to school or either going to school for the first time because they also struggle. So our goal overall, becoming this nonprofit organization is to begin to get funding, begin to make more connections just to ensure that anyone who wants to go to college can go to college. And overall, just the vision that we have is not only do we want to provide the information, the knowledge, but we want to also provide the tools and the resources, because so often you're going to get the information, but then it's like, what do I do with the information next? So we're creating text lists. We're creating like data sheets where students can basically download something free on our website and basically go through like a college tracker or a financial aid or a scholarship tracker so that they can know after one of our sessions, I just got presented to about this. Now here's the resource that I can use after the fact that's free that I can download from the website. So when I started in 2021, that's in September. From September to December, spoke with about 50 students. The next year, we kept increasing. Last year, about 2,100 students. This year, I think we'll be projected to go close to about 2,800 students that I'll be able to get in front of and present to. So we started off with one session, and right now we have content for a lot more sessions because I listen to the students, I listen to the parents of these students, and I realized that there's so many things that they don't know. Like they don't know what they don't know. So a lot of the times I was thinking from the aspect of, okay, they want to go to college, but my full-time job, I do corporate recruiting. And I recruit for a lot of people using their hands, production, manufacturing jobs. And they're not going to college. They're going to get certificates. They're going to trade schools and different things. So having worked in college admissions, I know so many students think that college is the only option because that's just what they've been told. But at times that's not the case. So we started to expand our sessions to just really, if someone were to think about college and start right at the beginning, they need to think about, is college even for them? So that's the first session that basically, if someone were to go sequentially through everything that we offer, that's where we would suggest that they start. And after that, then they can go through, how do I search? How do I begin? Or what are the search fundamentals? How do I begin to search? We have a session where we help prepare the parents, because if we find that if the parents are connected to the process too, then the student is going to be more successful in that process, but also, just have a little bit more support. Offering things like just simply applying to college, the different types of application process. We go through things like, what's early action, what's early decision. We talk about the college essays. We talk about the college interviews. We have specific sessions now for college essays and college interviews. And even taking that a step forward, we offer mock interviews for students. I'll get on Zoom with them for an hour, and I will basically run them through the ringer of questions for whatever institution that they're applying to. So I act like I'm someone from that school. And then I record them and I give them the recording so they can see some of the feedback, because I do give real-time feedback. But also, we all do weird things where we're getting interviewed or just talking to people that we don't know that we do. So they can see a little bit of their tics so they can hopefully stop doing that. And then with the essays, we offer a college essay writing session. And to go another step further with that is we also offer a essay review. So at times they may not know anyone who can review their essay, but I have a team of volunteers that have all worked in college admissions or financial aid that help me out. Either me or one of them will review the essay. We don't do it for them, but we will go through, here's how you can improve your essay to really stand out and not be like the rest. I've worked part-time now for a while at Banana Republic. And one of the girls that I work with there, she took a gap year after her senior year because just the stress of applying to college, and no one in her household really went, and her high school didn't do much to prepare her. So I looked at her and I was like, so what's your overall issue? And she said, really just filling out the application. But almost like you go to a doctor's office and they tell you have this crazy type of virus, and you're like, what's that? They're like, a cold. There's so many college terms that students don't know that are on the application. So I was like, what if we just offered like an application workshop where I just got on Zoom with them, they share their screen, and I go through the school's application or the common application, whatever that obstacle is, we want to be able to support those students. And then we have a few different types of delivery options. So my original goal was to just do virtual sessions. So anyone, anywhere could take advantage of the sessions. For the most part, most of the people that I've actually spoken to and presented to have been in-person sessions. I've connected with a few different nonprofit organizations within Pennsylvania that has helped me. They have a captive group of like rising high school seniors or rising high school juniors, and they'll have me consistently the last couple of years come in and present to their students. So we do in-person virtual sessions. We do online and online group sessions, individual one-on-one sessions online also that we will offer for a cost. The free sessions that we do offer, so all of our group sessions on our website are free. I found just being a nonprofit organization when asking for funding, we used to charge, I think it was like $10 for a group session for anyone can sign up. But I found that, especially because a lot of the grants that we're looking for, they want to support. I find that they're almost trying to support people who are just giving some of the information away. So we just switched that model to offer free sessions. And we've had some success with that over the last year or so. So some of our upcoming goals, really just to partner with more community-based organizations, continue that, because the organizations that we have partnered with have they're students from all over. It's not just from one specific school. So in a way, our message is kind of getting into a few different schools. One of our biggest goals, of course, is to connect with schools and kind of help the high schools with the high school counselors with what they do. We want to begin to launch different types of video series where basically it's me or someone else on the team on our YouTube page or TikTok or anywhere in social media, also our website, but just giving the information out so students know, here's at least a resource or here's the information. So maybe it's not a session that you're attending, but you just need to know these one or two things. And if you want to, of course, then attend a session, you can sign up on our website. So one of the biggest challenges that I've faced is getting connected with schools. Anytime I've reached out to schools, there's not much of a response. And a few of the high school counselors that I've talked to over the years say that more than likely, it's the high schools that are feeling like, that the high school counselors they're feeling like you're going to come in and take what they're doing. So, of course, I'm like, well, I'm just here to offset what they're doing, because having someone who's been to hundreds of high schools in the country recruiting for Penn State, I know at times that when I would walk into an auditorium or a room like this, maybe there's 20 people, maybe there's a couple hundred students that are there, I could tell within just a couple minutes if what I'm talking about is going over their head. And I could tell that I know from that would be, a direct reflection of the support that the high school counselors are giving the students. And most of my recruiting was before the pandemic. Even after, I know the job of a high school counselor has drastically changed. Even if they could focus on college readiness with the students before, they can't do that nearly as much now, simply because, again, their job has continued to drastically change. So that's one of the things I really feel like if we're able to just break into one or two different high schools and make a connection with some of them, it'll be a huge domino effect, because they'll begin to tell other schools and things like that within their district or surrounding districts. Continually building with community organizations, relationships there, where we've really been trying to look at some more so national organizations, such as like the YMCA, Big Brothers Big Sisters, those types of organizations, because if we get connected here, then of course nationally we can begin to get connected with so many others, and they literally have our target population at a lot of those different locations. Long-term for College Knowledge, we are looking to not just provide information, but also the financial support to students who are considered low income. So how can we help people pay for an application fee? How can we help someone pay for a acceptance fee, or books, or travel to a school that they wouldn't normally be able to travel to, in addition to long-term being able to provide scholarships. When we have the outlook, as a company. There shouldn't be a student that doesn't go to college simply because they don't know what they don't know. But we're here basically to be able to provide them that stepping stone, step by step, what you need, or just come in and do one session. Maybe it's college interviewing that you've never been through an interview. I mean, most 16, 17-year-olds haven't. So maybe that's the one thing you need. We've got a session for that. Or we can walk you through a mock interview. So really looking for partnering with different businesses, let us put up a flyer, those types of things I've done, leaving cards at different places, businesses that you may know that sponsor nonprofit organizations that would also, be helpful to us just to, just begin to continually expand the word and expand the reach.
Have you ever thought about partnering with an organization? I actually have two in mind. The first one is Junior Achievement. Are you familiar with Junior Achievement?
Somewhat. Junior Achievement, if I actually pull up a browser on my laptop, has been on one of my browsers for like 2 days now.
Okay.
But I definitely would like to, because I've heard about them.
Yeah.
And I knew about them when I was in school. Mm-hmm. But that's not an organization we've contacted yet.
I volunteer with them personally.
Okay.
I've had a great experience with it. You can request to be part of specific activities that they do. They offer things for all age ranges and obviously age-appropriate activities.
Sure.
But they do everything from almost like vocational experiences to my personal favorite, given that I'm a financial advisor, is their budget builder exercise. Mm-hmm. So you're giving them kind of that real-world guidance of this is what it costs to run a life.
Yeah.
And and I think that you could maybe partner with an organization like that because they've already got the relationships with the schools, and they are in a lot of schools in Central PA, mm-hmm. And they might be able to help at least spread the word a little bit more. Also, not having you or your team members maybe personally volunteering with them. Also, like Rotary clubs. I found that there seems to be principals and whatnot that do tend to join them, or superintendents.
Okay.
So it's a membership fee, but it's
Sure.
something that at least you could be building those relationships on a regular basis. And like you said, maybe going more towards the principals versus the counselors.
Yeah.
The principals and the superintendents are the ones that are more likely to join those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So just something to consider.
For sure. No, I know. I'm thinking of a couple people that I know who are a part of Rotary, so
Okay.
I'll have to connect with them.
Like my kids would like a day in the life of what it's like to go to college,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a stark difference from what they're experiencing in high school. So is that something that your company can offer to the children? Like if you're partnering with colleges where they can actually experience what it looks like to go through the process of administration or of admissions, or go through sitting in one classroom, like an auditing a classroom, to see if that's something that they are like, if college really is for them, or just like something that they can actually experience hands-on. Because I've noticed that it's mostly more my son. He's like he's a planner.
Gotcha.
But he likes to experience things, to kind of like practice.
Sure.
And be like, just to get a feel for it. And
Yeah,
then
when I was a
see what it's
student,
like.
I was a tour guide, and one of the
Okay.
activities that we would do is we would have students come and shadow us. We haven't explored that. We haven't really tried to really at all connect with other like colleges or universities, just not to make it seem like we're showing any bias towards any. And I forget the Netflix special that's out where they basically talked about how people who do like independent college consulting, for instance, where, there was the celebrities that were, faking this, and they were really, because they were so connected with certain schools, like, oh, I can get you in here. So that's been a really big hesitation of ours not to, but something like that, where it comes to just at least whatever area I may be in, seeing what schools may offer programs like that, where you could do something like that.
Not necessarily at the university level, but if you have connections with faculty or especially the department heads, when I'm talking about the REU programs, or not, well, technically not REUs, but these generally summer programs where students are brought to the university to give them like some kind of research experience. Mm-hmm. If that's a way to kind of circumvent that, because in that case, you're not necessarily recruiting on behalf of the college, but any student can go to any research experience or college experience to obtain that. Is that something would be a little bit more navigable.
I know just when you're trying to do something with colleges, having worked in college admissions, they're very territorial. If anyone's sharing any type of message that's not come here. I mean, I do know some people at some like different universities where I can kind of test the waters with that, who have like summer programs where they have a lot of high school students that are there. But yeah, that's not an avenue that we've explored or really thought about, though.
It seems to me that what you're doing is very valuable, not so much for the people that have a high college applicant rate going out of high school, like Camp Hill or some of the ones East Shore, but the ones that maybe aren't even thinking about college and they have no idea what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. That's where you could really find some, big purpose. I think it's great.
I think like you're basically running, and it's good that you're experimenting, like trying to target the principals instead of the counselors, because you're basically running like an inside sales process, or at least the whatever cold email part you're doing. It seems like that's what it is. And so you definitely want to be running like mini experiments and seeing sort of like what converts and what doesn't. And yeah, the positioning tactics around exactly like what is the value add to the counselor and kind of like the way that you demonstrate that. But to kind of link in with what we were talking about before about visual things in the food business, I feel like your idea of having like kind of high quality videos, like there might be a kind of freemium mini version almost, or like a teaser video, like something that when you send it, in addition to whatever, I'm sure you've already got like one pagers and print collateral that you attach as like a PDF, but like a video that you can click, like the freemium thing to give the counselor is kind of like sort of what Dave was saying. It's like if you can give that very, very intro thing delivered in video form, as opposed to them bringing you in live, like then it does make their lives easier. It's like the demonstrating the give first kind of thing, and like the freemium offer to kind of hook them. Like, I feel like the video content might be the way that when combined with your inside sales kind of experimentation and trying different tactics, like video could be a huge, I think, support for that, and giving them the video as a tool, right? Here's a free, 15-minute video that you can play in your group counselor session, and if all the students really like it, the counselor, it's like Dave was saying, like it leads to better, higher value conversations with the students. Then next year, whatever, that counselor might come around and they want to then bring you in person for the next time. So yeah, huge focus of ours right now is video. Actually, last night I just ordered like a mini teleprompter. Nice, because when I do record videos, you can only imagine what the blooper reels are like. It takes me quite a while. And my team that does, the couple of interns that I have that do the film and video editing, I know they always have a good laugh when they're probably editing all the videos that I'm doing. But yeah, video content, I feel like that's where we need to be at right now.
I was just going to suggest homeschoolers. I actually was homeschooled 1st through 12th grade, no big deal. And the process of getting into colleges is very different. I mean, maybe this is already something that you have navigated. There is no guidance counselor. You're just, depending on how you are homeschooled, there are like cyber schooling, but a lot of people, especially after 2020, like a huge chunk of people migrated to homeschooling outside of their public school system. And there are, build your own curriculum type homeschooling. We are a charter school, so there's like a lot of other avenues. But the one thing about homeschoolers specifically is that they're usually like choose your own adventure. Like they don't necessarily follow the same avenues that most people do. And they've spent a ton of time already doing alternative schedules and prioritizing the things that they genuinely care about. So when they're approaching college, they are doing it much more intentionally. And it is intimidating if you haven't gone to a public school your whole life. I mean, when I went to go tour college for the first time, I literally was walking around like everybody knows I'm homeschooled. They can all just tell.
If it's helpful, just a couple thoughts I had. You meant the scandal that you mentioned, that's called the Varsity Blues scandal, right?
Yes.
And there's something to be said for that though, because you're providing, if I'm understanding you're providing something free or low cost for people that would otherwise pay thousands of dollars, because very wealthy people, they want their kids to go to Yale and Harvard and all the rest. You're saying, I'm going to show you, a student in Harrisburg or wherever, I'm going to show you some of the ropes. So that could be a value point or a talking point for you. I'm providing this service that's worth X dollars, and I'm going to do it at this cost or free or whatever it is.
That's a good idea.
Something to think about. And also, the fact that you haven't been getting into these high schools, I think maybe there's something in your in the presentation, or because you're offering a lot, and that's a good thing. But maybe pick one thing or pick a couple of things. Maybe just the essay writing alone, or whatever it is. And if you do something like that, essay writing alone, you could have talking points about why that is so valuable. Because places like Harvard, they could fill their ranks entirely with 4.0 kids and perfect AP and all that. But they want the kid who stands out with the essay, who has something of substance to talk about. But maybe just focus on a couple of things. Maybe that's helpful. And it's possible maybe you're always going to get resistance from the high schools, because the high schools are going to be very protective of their students. They don't know if you represent a for-profit school or if you're representing high loans, because there's all these pitfalls, like she mentioned, that a student doesn't know about. And there's also, it's a very uneven playing field, right? Just because a public school on paper is lower cost doesn't mean you can't go into debt. A private school on paper might cost more, but you might get a ton of money from their scholarships and endowment. So anyway, that's just a very long-winded way to say that, I think transparency would be very good when you're speaking to these people. I think you already said it, trying to talk to the principals, because they're the decision makers. The counselor still has to ask the principal.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how you're going to do that with LinkedIn maybe, or maybe there's some principals conference or something. But I think, principals, district managers, conferences maybe.
One thing that we're switching our focus to as we do reach out to schools is we're not pushing the more general sessions that we have. We're more so pushing, let us come in and talk about how to stand out in your college essay. Come in, let us talk about college essays and college interviews are the two areas that we're like, if we can get in with these two topics or one of these, then you did amazing. Come talk about the other 6 or 7 sessions that you.
And I haven't heard your presentation, but maybe have a few. There's some really good, solid facts out there that might help you with talking points. Like she mentioned FAFSA. I just learned recently that there's billions of dollars with a B that's left on the table because people don't finish the FAFSA application. So they start it, and the government wants them to have that money, but they don't even finish it. So we're not even talking about there's no funds. The funds are there, but people don't even finish the application. But